So here we are again back in Unity. We've got the scene that we were working on before. I've placed all my graphics in a folder called UI graphics, as in user interface, so that we can just simply drag these directly into Unity. So in assets, let's just drag UI graphics folder directly in here. That will import all of those graphics. Now if we double click on these, we do need to ensure that all of these are set as sprites. Okay, at the moment they will just simply be texture files which will not recognize or understand that transparent background. So if you just click on the first one, hold shift, click on the very last one. In Inspector we're going to change the type to a sprite 2D and UI, and then we're simply going to apply that, and that's going to give us all of our transparent backgrounds back. Okay, great. So what we're going to do, we're going to basically recreate this item on the bottom using these graphics. Whenever you want to create a user interface element that's graphics, you need some kind of a canvas. So in our game object, we can create a UI and a canvas. Okay, all items will basically sit on the canvas. What you get is an object that can basically scale with screen size if you set it to, and an event system that allows you to interact with that canvas. Now at the moment my screen space is on overlay, so it will overlay whatever you see behind it, which is fine, and it's based on the constant pixel size. Well, I actually want to match this to this resolution, so we can do scale with screen size and then set our reference to 1920 by 1080. So if you just type 1920 by 1080, everything you place on the canvas will then basically scale up or down if the resolution is different. So for example, if it was a 4K monitor, what this would do, the canvas would scale up twice on the height, twice on the width, and it would match it perfectly. And you can choose which one should take priority. Should it scale in the width or the height as a priority? Well, it's probably going to be height. Okay, since height can technically change quite a lot on monitors, width is usually quite standardized. And we want our reference pixels per unit to be about 100. Okay, now as part of our canvas, we need to right click, we go to UI, and we're going to place in a new image. Okay, we got our image holder right there. I'm just going to take my project and drag it down here. Let's just move this around. So probably the first thing that I need is probably this background piece. So BGUI, I'm just going to drag that into there, and then I'm going to choose set native size. Okay, doesn't need to be a raycast target. That basically means anything that you can interact with and press. And all I need to do now is move it down to the bottom. However, I will do so once I've got everything lined up perfectly. Okay, so let's just rename this image as BG icons maybe. And once again we can right click, choose UI and a new image. This time I think I'll do the mana full. Okay, once again set native size, raycast target, just switch that off. Let's call this mana. Okay, once again right click. In fact, let me just click on this one, do a Control and D, and just change this to stamina. It's probably a bit easier. And then take my stamina, drag that in. So it's already set at native size. Once again, let's do a Control and D. Let's call this stamina empty. And let's drag in the stamina empty. Let's take our mana, Control and D. Let's call this mana empty. I'm just going to drag this one above so it's sitting above the stamina but below the mana. And let's drag the mana empty into there. Okay, and then obviously we need the health. So right click, UI, new image. Let's drag in the health full. Once again, set native size and no raycast target. Let's call this health full. duplicate this, Control and D. Let's drag in the health empty. Let's call this health empty. Okay, great. Now I can take all of these items and I can just drag those down on the pos Y. Just click and drag where it says pos Y. Just going to drag these down till I get somewhere where I'm quite happy with it. Let's just say like that. Now it's a case of just moving these items around now. So probably the first one is going to be the mana. So let's just drag this one up and align it with the top of this bar, and I just want to drag it across on the pos X. Okay, so that it lines up nicely with the end of that bar. Okay, and then let's do the same thing with stamina. In fact, the mana pos Y needs to be exactly the same as the stamina, so we can just copy that. Control and C. Okay, and then on the stamina and stamina empty, just do Control and V so it sits in the exact same position, and then we can just drag this over to the left. So we're just going to line that up nicely with the edge, and there we go. Okay, so if I now switch off my stamina empty, you can see the stamina. Switch off the mana empty, you can see the mana. Okay, on either side there. If I switch off the health empty, you can see the health full. All right, and we've got our UI icons all set up, which means that I can now switch all of those items off, and we're left with our UI element there at the bottom. Okay, now one of the great things about this system is that we can then control and manipulate this using script. So if I switch back on my mana empty and I drag this above, drag it above the mana so the actual mana sits on top of the mana empty, I can now change my image type from simple to filled. The fill method is going to be a horizontal, and I want the fill, I think it's from the left, so if I click and drag this, you'll see that that will now go down or up. Okay, so that I can fill that bar basically just using that fill amount. Okay, that's great. Now we can do exactly the same thing with our stamina, so drag stamina empty above stamina and switch that on. Then with our stamina object, change this to filled, make sure it is horizontal, but this time the fill will be from the right. So if I now drag this, you can see that that can go up and down as well. Same thing with the health, so drag the empty above the full, switch that back on again, and then the health full, make sure that this is filled, but this time it's going to be vertical, and we're going to do it from the bottom so that effectively it can fill up. So as your health fills up, you can see it kind of going all the way up to the top there. Okay, and once again we can control this using script. And that's our user interface kind of bar pretty much set up in our scene. So let's just do a quick file and save, and then we can basically take this item and we can put it into whatever scene that we need it to sit in.